Newsfirst at 9. Headlines.
It's the 1st of April 2014. A very good evening to you and welcome to News at 9, coming to you live from the Newsfirst Center here in Colombo. And I'm Joel Outscoon with tonight's headlines. Leading newspaper in the Gulf, Arab News reports that there are 20 bodies of Sri Lankans in mortuaries in Saudi Arabia. The resolution on Sri Lanka in Geneva will help to address the legitimate concerns of all communities, a statement by the British Foreign Secretary. Who will be the next Chief Minister of the Western and Southern Provinces? Salinization makes the water of the Kaluganga unfit to use as drinking water. Proposals for the merging and acquisition of banks and financial institutions presented to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Let's now cross over to our Newsfirst studios for a comprehensive news bulletin.
Well, a very good evening to you and welcome to Primetime News at 9. I'm Nadim Majid.
And I'm Nicola Dizoiza. Let's start off with our top story for tonight. The Sri Lankan Economic Association has given serious attention to a recent report presented in Parliament which revealed that a large number of dead bodies and remains were returned to Sri Lanka from the Gulf states between January and October 2012. Saudi Arabia-based Arab News reports that about 75% of the bodies were of women below 30 years of age.
Arab News, quoting information from the medical officer at the Katunayake International Airport, said that the majority of cases were determined to be deaths due to heart failure and that the internal organs in most of the bodies were reported to be missing. Quoting a senior official at the Sri Lankan embassy in Riyadh, Arab News reports that an average of one Sri Lankan expatriate death is reported every day. The official added that there are some 20 bodies of Sri Lankan expatriates in mortuaries in Saudi Arabia awaiting repatriation. He added, however, that the mission sends 2 bodies to Colombo daily to be received by the deceased relatives.
Meanwhile, Newsfirst contacted Subject Minister Dilan Pereira on this new development.
Natural causes amount to 98% of the deaths reported amongst the expatriate community. A medical report must be issued from the country concerned when a death of a Sri Lankan is reported, highlighting the cause of death. If the cause of death is not natural and is a murder, we do not accept the report. Here in Sri Lanka as well, we carry out a cross-examination to determine the cause of death. In any country, it is the doctor who carries out the examination and concludes the cause of death. I have never come across an instance where an individual from another profession other than a doctor determined the cause of death.
Well, on to more local news. The British Foreign Secretary says that the resolution on Sri Lanka adopted at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva represents a significant step forward in ensuring that the truth is established for the Sri Lankan people. In a written statement to the British Parliament yesterday, William Hague said the British government was pleased with the outcome in Geneva and strongly believes that it was the right decision.
In his statement, Hague notes that the passing of this resolution sends an important and strong message to the Sri Lankan government that they must address the grievances of the recent past in order to help secure lasting peace and reconciliation and a prosperous future for all people of Sri Lanka. He adds that the UK will continue to work with the UNHRC and its international partners to ensure proper implementation of this resolution. William Hague also encourages the Sri Lankan government to fully cooperate with the resolution and to work alongside the international community for the benefit of its people. He adds further that this resolution will help to address the legitimate concerns of all communities. Furthermore, Hague notes that the resolution presents an opportunity to tackle the root causes of conflict, continued human rights concerns, and set Sri Lanka on the right path for reconciliation. He concludes by expressing his hope that the Sri Lankan government will embrace this opportunity.
Staying on topic, the French charity action centre La Femme has welcomed the UN Human Rights Council resolution on Sri Lanka, which paves the way for an inquiry into alleged human rights abuses, including the killing of 17 ACF aid workers in Muttur, Trincomalee 8 years ago. Now, Reuters quoted the advocacy director of ACF, Sergei Brese, as saying that the passage of the resolution was a great victory for the bereaved families and a huge relief for everyone working at ACF. Brese added, quote, "We've campaigned for justice for 7 years. An international and independent inquiry into the deaths of our colleagues can finally be implemented and a message sent that the killing of civilians and humanitarian workers will not go unpunished," unquote.
The staff training workshop for the multinational planning augmentation team commenced in Colombo today.
The workshop, Tempest Express 24, will focus on strategic, operational and tactical level planning for a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, high explosive or toxic industrial material consequence management in support of both the Sri Lankan government and US Pacific Command theatre security objectives.
In recent years, the goals and actions of terrorists have changed in a way that makes the use of CBRN weapons more within the realm of possibility, while technological advances have made the possibility of a CBRN attack more feasible than in decades and centuries past. The use of CBRN weapons poses a potential threat to international community. This underscores one of the main motivations behind the use of CBRN weapons, which is the psychological impact they make on the populations they target, which in turn translates into a force multiplier. Eliminating the threat of CBRN attacks will be challenging. The international community must work together to facilitate open conversations among governments, the scientific community, and other stakeholders.
Communication is always a vital capability and is nowhere more important than when trying to bring unity of effort to persons from different cultures, speaking different languages, and trying to work as one unified team. We have military members of air, sea, and land forces here from 17 countries. Out of those 17 nations, we have 12 different languages and 10 distinct alphabets. Those facts alone make multinational planning quite a challenge. Add to that, in the 21st century, almost every military operation will include our civilian partners as assistants or working with or leading our efforts. Tempest Express 24 will be no different.
In addition, 20 officers from the USA and 26 officers from Vietnam, Canada, Bangladesh, Australia, Philippines, New Zealand, Nepal, Maldives, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mongolia, Singapore, Thailand and Japan will participate in Tempest Express 24 in Sri Lanka. Tempest Express 24 will conclude on the 9th of April.
Quoting the Sri Lankan Ministry of Defence, the Chinese news agency Xinhua reports that the Sri Lankan government has banned 16 groups operating overseas over their alleged links with terrorism. We spoke to military spokesperson Brigadier Ruwan Wanigasurya for details.
The Foreign Minister has issued an order designating persons and entities in terms of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1373, which was adopted in 2001, which sets out certain parameters in dealing with foreign terrorist organizations. Accordingly, 16 organizations, including the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, which is already a proscribed organization, will fall into this list. The 15 additional organizations have also been included accordingly. Among the 15 new organizations which are proscribed under this proclamation, there are well-known organizations such as the Tamil Rehabilitation Organization, the British Tamil Forum, the Global Tamil Forum, and the Transnational Government of Tamil Eelam. These organizations will be listed as foreign terrorist organizations, and any dealing with them or through them will become illegal according to the international as well as national laws.
The Indian Supreme Court reiterated today 3 men from Tamil Nadu convicted of killing former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi will not hang. The top court had commuted their death sentence in February because of an 11-year delay in deciding on their petitions of mercy. The union government had appealed against the decision to reduce their punishment to life imprisonment but lost its case today. Santhan, Murugan, Perarivalan were convicted of involvement in 1998 and sentenced to death by hanging. A 4th person, Nalini, was also given the death sentence, but it was later commuted to a life term. 3 others are serving life terms. After the Supreme Court's February verdict, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jayalalitha said her government would free all 7 convicts, planting it in a face-off with the centre ahead of the national election. The union government also filed a petition at the Supreme Court arguing that Jayalalitha's government does not have the power to free the convicts. The court then blocked the chief minister from releasing the assassins who have spent more than 20 years in jail.
On to news from here at home. The salinization has made the waters of the Kaluganga unfit for consumption. Newsfirst made inquiries into the issue.
Why has there been salinization in the waters of the Kaluganga? You may be aware that dry weather conditions have caused the water levels of the Kaluganga to recede. As a result, the amount of water flowing from the Kaluganga into the sea has reduced. However, ocean tides have caused seawater to flow upriver.
Salinization has occurred from the estuary of the Kaluganga, about 12 kilometers upriver, where the Kethena water purification station is located. This purification station provides clean drinking water for over 300,000 people residing in Wadua, Kalutara, Payagala, Berola, Aludgama and Bentara. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board says that the salinization of rivers' water has caused the salinity of water supplied to these areas to exceed usual levels. As a result, water is now being supplied to the Kalutara area through bowsers.
In the past, they used sandbags and were working there, and the water was fit to drink. About once a year, the water becomes undrinkable. Now we go in search of wells to procure drinking water. We use this water to cook. Water is also distributed through bowsers.
Sandbags are being used to build a temporary dike to control the salinization of the waters of the Kaluganga. Sandbags used in the dry season are removed with the onset of the rainy season in order to prevent flooding. In March last year, sandbags used in the dry season were removed with the coming of the rains. Officials of the National Water Supply and Drainage Board say that about 150,000 sandbags are required each time in order to build a temporary dike.
The water has been salinized. In spite of the salinity, we are distributing water for washing purposes. We are using 10 bowsers and 100 tanks to provide drinking water.
Although the elections for the Western and Southern Provincial Councils have been concluded, the candidates who will take up the positions of Chief Minister have not been nominated. Nevertheless, we were able to witness the enthusiasm shown to hold the position of Chief Minister by several candidates who contested the Southern Provincial Council poll. Will they realize their dreams of being Chief Minister?
The party and especially His Excellency the President appreciated the service that I have rendered and did justice. I have strong faith in my heart that this time around too, he will provide me the space to continue to provide the service to the people in the South. I am not asking for the Chief Minister's position because of the privileges and powers that it entails. If we look at the pattern here, we see that the first 2 were from Gaul, the second 2 were from Mathura, and the third 2 were from Gaul once again. Thereby the fourth 2, that is the 7th and the 8th Chief Ministers, should be from Mathura.
If the position of Chief Minister is open, then I am not the only one that wants it. I do not see any justification in asking for the Chief Ministerial portfolio for this area. This is because the Mathura district had the Chief Ministerial portfolio for the longest time. Leave alone the Chief Ministerial portfolio. It is people who cannot even come first in their district that are talking about the Chief Ministerial portfolio. On 30th of March, just as the alliance will win, I too wish to state, my friends, that I will receive the highest percentage of votes across Sri Lanka and become Chief Minister of the South.
I do not say that I am the next Chief Minister for nothing. For 30 years I have undergone hardship for the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, and I have even been in prison. For 30 years I have been a councillor in the Southern Provincial Council. I have held ministerial portfolios and I have never faced any allegations of corruption. There are plenty of persons qualified to be Chief Minister, my friends, in which case I too am qualified. I have an education qualification I have not stolen from the government. This adds further to my qualification.
Why should we give the chief ministership to others? Let's keep it in Benthara Elpitia. Let's make Benthara Elpitia victorious, in which case the victory will not be mine but for Benthara Elpitia. You must not forget that.
The people are sick of the politics of promise. If we are contesting to serve the people, why should we make promises? The last system is transaction politics.
I am thankful to all the people of the Colombo district who voted for me and placed me high. Kulonava is my hometown. The votes I obtained show the love that the people of Kulonava have for my father and the faith and love that they have for me, which is why they have put me forward to rebuild the hometown. I hope to do whatever is possible within the provincial council.
We are steering our election campaign in a respectable fashion. Today you may see on the television that there are problems arising.
The views expressed by prominent politicians on the position of Chief Minister was also a topic of conversation.
His Excellency the President asked this man on the stage in Veyangoda whether he should break with tradition and appoint him Chief Minister. He said he would do it, and this man said no. It is only he, the President, and I that are aware of this. We discussed the matter and the district organization decided to put forward only the two candidates in Kalaniya. You can appoint them. There are others as well. I will not be mistaken again. I did so that last time and I got into trouble.
Staying in news from the Provincial Council polls, Attorney-at-Law Susara Dinal says that one of his priorities will be to strengthen minor entrepreneurs in the Gampaha district. Susara Dinal made this statement on Newsfirst special segment Newsline following his victory at the Western Provincial Council poll.
This society, this environment is progressing rapidly. This is mostly because of the private investment. But through these 60 and 70-story investments, a large number of job opportunities are created. A large number of business opportunities are created. When speaking of business opportunities, we always seem to look at it from the perspective of a large-scale business. You may remember how in the past there were letters sent to our homes. a lot of new opportunities are arising. I believe that as an individual who has come from the private sector, as a professional, I can carry out a major task to prepare the young men and women and the people from the Gampa district, situation adjacent to the capital Colombo, for these opportunities.
Who will be nominated for the position of opposition leader of the Western Province?
SM Marikar polled the highest number of preferential votes from among all the UNP candidates in both the western and southern provinces.
Let's take an example. Buddhika Patirana, who is now a national politician, polled the highest preferential votes and became opposition leader of the southern province. Rosie Senanayaka, who polled the highest number of preferential votes in the western province, also became the opposition leader. JC Aluwatula, who polled the highest number of preferential votes in the northwestern province, was also appointed opposition leader. I remember that in the north central province too, Kings Nelson received the highest preferential votes and was appointed opposition leader. You have received the highest preferential votes in the Colombo district. What are your views?
I have received the highest number of preferential votes not only in the Colombo district but in the entire western province. But I must leave room for the view or the decision of the party, because there is no law in the party that the candidate with the highest votes will get the position. The party will decide what the right action is.
Former opposition leader of the Devinuvara Pradeshya Sabha, Tushar Vijay Surya, says that the results of the Southern Provincial Council election prove that UNP supporters do not approve of violence at any instance. He points out that members of the so-called Cinnamon Pole Army, who attacked party supporters who marched calling for a change in leadership, have been defeated by party supporters at the ballot box.
It is evident that there is no place for violence today. While we have added one seat in Hambantota, we have lost one seat in Matara. On that day, the people took to the streets calling for new leadership. We asked for a government for us. It was the pain in the people's hearts that brought them to the streets. What happened then? They were attacked. And today the people have rejected all those responsible for the attack. The candidate Nadisha Hemamali said that she too had joined the Cinnamon Pole Army. Our supporters saw that, and what happened to the candidate who joined the Cinnamon Pole Army? She too was defeated. This fact is very evident to the country today, that there needs to be a change in our leadership. We need a victory. We have suffered for 20 years. We have had no relief for 20 years. This must definitely change. People all over the country are clamoring for change. All representatives must now come together for that change, unite and support the fight to establish a government for us. The Janata Vimukti Peramuna lost votes at past elections. As soon as there was a change in leadership, the number of votes increased. We cannot label this as false. Today, the youth, the people are calling for young leadership, a leadership that can work for them. The prevailing leadership must change.
Today marks the first year anniversary of the Democratic Party. This milestone was celebrated under the auspices of Sarath Fonseca, the leader of the party.
The celebration was organized at the Democratic Party office in Kotte. A group of individuals, including the deputy leader of the party, Jayantha Katagoda, and the treasurer, Anoma Fonseca, attended the event.
පක්ෂය ඇවිදින්න පටන් ගන්න වයස. නමුත් මේ කාලය ධනගාන කාලය ඇතුළත අපි ජනතාවගේ ප්‍රතිචාර ලබා ගනිමින් ජනතාවගේ ආශිර්වාද ලබා ගනිමින් ජනතාව ඉදිරියට ගිහිල්ලා.
The time is right for the party to learn to walk, but during the crawling stage, we met the people, listened to their feedback and gained their blessings and trust for our future journey. Because our party had a great beginning, we are certain that it will grow into a powerful party and we will continue with its journey. We hope to take steps to ensure that the people's expectations are met and bring justice to the people of this country. We will focus our attention towards the people's needs. We devote ourselves to create a country that is committed to the people.
අවශ්‍යතාවයන් ඉෂ්ට කරන්න පුළුවන් අවශ්‍යතාවයන් ගැන අවධානය යොමු කරන ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන් කැප වෙන රටක් ගොඩනගන්න ඉදිරි කාලයේදී.
Since its inception on the 1st of April last year, the Democratic Party has participated in 2 provincial council elections. The first was the Northwestern and Central Provincial Council polls, and the second was the recently concluded Western and Southern Provincial Council polls.
Well, an event organized to felicitate Susil Kindelpitia, who was elected to the Western Provincial Council on the Democratic Party ticket, was held in Kolonnawa today. A group including party supporters attended the event that was held at the party's operations office in Kolonnawa.
මෙතෙක් ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී පක්ෂයෙන් මේ ඡන්දයට ඉදිරිපත් වෙච්ච සියලුම අපේක්ෂක
I am extremely happy about being the candidate who polled the highest number of votes and the highest percentage of votes from among the Democratic Party candidates.
පත්වීම ගැන මට ලොකු සතුටක්. මගේ වගකීම තමයි
It is my responsibility to give value to this victory and to move forward while preserving this victory.
ආරක්ෂා කරගෙන ඉදිරියට යන්නේ. මේ ජනතාවට අසාධාරණයක්
As a politician and as a journalist, I will not allow for these people to be treated unjustly.
නෑ මාධ්‍යවේදියෙක් හැටියට මං ඉඩ දෙන්නෙත් නෑ.
The first anniversary of the Democratic Party was also celebrated at this event.
The charge sheet pertaining to the assassination of Bharata Lakshman Premachandra was handed over to the defendants of the case today at the Colombo Magistrates Court. 13 persons, including parliamentarian R. Dominda Silva, have been named as defendants in the case. Accordingly, the charge sheet states that the defendants are responsible for the killing of 4 persons, including Bharata Lakshman Premachandra and illegal assembly. Additional Magistrate Priyantha Liyanage questioned the defendants whether they were prepared to provide evidence in this regard. The lawyers representing the defendants informed courts that evidence will be provided by the defendants if the case is referred to the High Court.
Charges are filed against 11 persons in the case pertaining to the assassination of Bharata Lakshman Premachandra. We plead not guilty to the charges. The additional magistrate affirmed that the decision pertaining to the case being referred to the High Courts will be taken up during the next hearing scheduled to be taken up on the 2nd of May.
Attorneys at law and notaries public Malawarachi Associates, acting on behalf of their client, Member of Parliament and the Chairman of the Leadership Council of the UNP, Kharujai Surya, have issued 2 letters of demand to Ceylon Newspapers Private Limited, demanding a total sum of 1 billion rupees for false and defamatory publications that have caused injury to reputation and pain of mind to their client. Now, each of the letters of demand cite articles published in the Maubima newspaper on the 11th of November 2013 and the 16th of November 2013. The letters of demand note that the said publications with regard to MP Kharujai Surya were absolutely false, malicious and defamatory. In the letters of demand, attorneys at law Malawarachi Associates notes that their client MP Kharujai Surya has sustained damages estimated to a sum of 500 million rupees for each of the articles, which some Ceylon Newspapers Private Limited are liable to pay to MP Kharujai Surya. The letters of demand, both dated the 26th of March 2014, note that should Ceylon Newspapers Private Limited fail to pay the sum of 500 million rupees for damages sustained as a result of each of the publications, amounting to 1 billion in total damages, within 2 weeks thereof, further instructions have been issued by the client, MP Kharujai Surya, to institute legal proceedings against Ceylon Newspapers Private Limited for recovery of the said damages.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says that several banks and finance and leasing companies have shortlisted potential merger and acquisition counterparts and are carrying out internal evaluations on such companies in keeping with the CBSL's plan to consolidate the financial services sector. In a progress update for the month of March 2014, the CBSL says that considerable progress has been made in the consolidation process during the month.
The central bank says that in addition to the shortlisting of potential merger and acquisition counterparts by other financial services institutions, the National Development Bank PLC and DFCC Bank have entered into a memorandum of understanding in order to proceed with their merger process. The CBSL says it has approved in principle certain possible consolidation activities amongst a few banks and finance companies. The CBSL further notes that several audit firms appointed by the CBSL to carry out due diligence and valuation of the companies are in the process of finalizing their reports. In the meantime, the central bank says that several strategic investors have indicated their willingness to infuse fresh capital to some of the banks and finance and leasing companies. The CBSL says such investments are expected to strengthen the balance sheets of those entities and that the CBSL has also granted approval in principle for such strategic investments. The central bank notes that over the past few days, in keeping with the central bank's request, banks and finance and leasing companies have commenced submitting their broad plans on consolidation and greater participation in economic activities, adding that the CBSL will within the coming week review these plans and issue suitable responses thereafter.
Today marks day 6 of Around the World in 40 Days, a 40-day world tour organized by Newsfirst and Sri Lanka Youth ahead of the World Conference on Youth that will be held in Sri Lanka this year. The Sri Lankan delegation is currently in the Philippines. These delegates travelling across 5 continents will exchange ideas with youth in the countries they visit.
Around the World in 40 Days.
The delegates participated at an event which was held at the Sri Lankan Embassy in the Philippine capital Manila this morning. Embassy officials and representatives of the Philippines National Youth Commission participated at this event. After singing the national anthems of the two nations, the Sri Lankan delegates were welcomed by the acting ambassador Wijayawatna Mendes. A representative of the National Youth Commission from the Philippines, Mignon de la Fus Repozao, stated that it was an honor to host the Sri Lankan delegates in the Philippines. Subsequently, the delegates participated at a discussion with the chairman of the National Youth Commission of the Philippines, Leon Flores, in Quezon. The 4-year development program implemented for Filipino youth was discussed at length. The national flag of the Philippines was presented to the Sri Lankan delegates thereafter. The Sri Lankan delegates also toured Tane Rizal. The mayor of Tane Rizal, Rafael Tanjuatko, stated that a youth team from his province will also participate in the youth conference that will be held in Sri Lanka. Subsequently, a special tour was organized to inform the Sri Lankan youth about the steps that have been taken for disaster management in the Philippine capital, which is prone to typhoons and flooding. The Sri Lankan delegation that is touring the world carrying the national flag will return to Sri Lanka on the 5th of May with the national flags of the nations they visited.
මෙය රටක් විදියට ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන්ට කලාපීය වශයෙන් ආසියාතිකයන්ට ගෝලීය වශයෙන් සියලු බිලියන 2ක් ඉක්මවා යන ගෝලීය තරුණ ප්‍රජාවට.
This is an important event for us as Sri Lankans, both regionally and globally. There are over 2 billion youth in the world. Therefore, this is a very special conference and I'm sure that it will be important historically. Siwasa is travelling across 20 nations with our national flag as part of a special program called Around the World in 40 Days. And they have already put this into action.
Around the World in 40 Days කියලා. විශේෂ වැඩසටහනක් මේ මොහොත වෙනකොටත් ක්‍රියාත්මක කරලා මුදා හැරලා තියෙන්නේ.
A man was killed in a wild elephant attack today in Rittade near Hettipola. On the other side of the human-elephant conflict, another wild elephant was poached for its tusks in the Karulagasweva area. A 65-year-old father of 3 was attacked by a wild elephant in Rittade near Hettipola last night. The victim, who worked as a guard at a coconut estate, was attacked by a wild elephant when he went to a nearby well to bathe. Our reporter says that elephants from the Ingidimitia Reserve have been frequenting the area over the past several days. Wildlife officers even launched an operation yesterday to chase away the pachyderms. The attack had taken place while the operation was underway. Meanwhile, the body of an elephant which had been shot to death was discovered near the Kaligamaveva in the village of Egoropitia in Karulagasweva, Putlam. Wildlife officers say that the tusker had been shot about 4 days ago. Moving on to sports news, Sri Lankan captain Lasith Malinga says that the performance of the bowlers changed the game around despite a poor batting performance in their game against New Zealand yesterday. Malinga made this comment after Sri Lanka reached the semi-finals of the World T20 thanks to a Ranganahera-inspired 59-run victory over New Zealand in their final Group 1 fixture. Sri Lanka batting first posted 119 runs all out in 19.2 overs in Chittagong last evening. Mahela Jayawardene top scored for the Lankans with 25 runs while Lahiru Thirumanna scored 20 runs. Bowled out for 119, Sri Lanka successfully defeated their modest total with left-arm spinner Herath claiming figures of 5 for 3. An injury prevented Kiwi batsman Corey Anderson from coming into bat and the Kiwis were bundled out for 60 runs in 15.3 overs.
120 runs in a T20 encounter is not a good total. However, after considering the pitch conditions and batting on the pitch, we understood that it was a good score to defend. We bowled very well in the first 6 overs. Rangana came in and bagged some quick wickets for the team. That is why we were able to overpower the Kiwis.
Sri Lanka opener Tilakaratne Dilshan has been fined 20% match fee for showing dissent at an umpiring decision during the World T20 match against New Zealand in Chittagong. The incident happened in the 4th over when Dilshan rubbed his elbow after the ball deflected off his gloves to the wicketkeeper to indicate that the ball had not touched his gloves. Sri Lanka will take on the winner of tonight's match between the West Indies and Pakistan on Thursday in the first semi-final.
Also in sports news, Sri Lanka's hosting of the 27 Asian Youth Games in Hambantota has been challenged once again, owing to the report submitted by the representatives of the Asian Olympic Council who inspected Sri Lanka's preparedness for the event. The report notes that preparations in Sri Lanka for the Games are not satisfactory. Asian Olympic Committee officials met in Kuwait yesterday to discuss the issue. The President of the National Olympic Committee, Hemasiri Fernando, represented Sri Lanka at this meeting. The Asian Olympic Committee had granted a grace period of 3 months as per a request submitted by Fernando. Well, before we wrap up the news tonight, a mass skydiving group is on its way towards setting a new world record in Arizona this week. The world team is known for its record-setting jump in 2006 in Thailand, in which 400 people took part in a free-fall formation.
This week in the skies over Eloy, Arizona, the group is doing practice runs for a 2.222-way world record in which 222 people would create 2 complete formations in the air. The goal is to complete 2 separate formation points within the same dive. No small feat when considering that it must be completed in 80 seconds or less.
We leave you tonight with a look at this awe-inspiring footage. Good night and good luck.
Hotline 0114-896-896 www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.